Hey there, today's lab is on the foot and ankle. So again, there's a lot of material on here that we won't necessarily cover in today's video, but make sure you pull that up and look through that. The main thing that we're going to look at with the foot is range of motion. So we can move our foot up and down, very much like our knee, it bends in that same plane. So we call up dorsiflexion, down plantar flexion. And dorsiflexion is really the one that's most important, because as we step across our foot, taking a step when it is in stance phase, the foot has to dorsiflex as the body and the tibia move forward over it. So you always want to make sure that they have good ankle dorsiflexion. And then the other two planes that we move in is inversion. And again, we've talked about before, whenever you invert, you sprain your ankle, you sprain the ligaments on the lateral side of the ankle. And so that's the most common way that we're going to sprain the ankle. And then we have eversion. And you notice that eversion doesn't go nearly as far as inversion. And we've talked about this a little bit before, so you can see how far distally the fibula goes, the lateral malleolus, and how high the medial malleolus is. And so going medially into inversion, there's nothing stopping it. But you go into eversion, and the lateral malleolus is going to stop it. So if you have an eversion sprain, it's less likely, but it's typically more damaging, because you're going to do one of two things. As you come out forcefully, you may cause a fracture here, or you may split this and cause widening, which we typically refer to as a high ankle sprain. So now go ahead and stand up. So those are the primary planes that we move in: dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, inversion, eversion. The other way that our foot moves is a combination of those movements, and what we call this is supination, where the arch comes up high, and pronation, where the foot goes, or the arch goes down. So it's very similar to your hand. If you turn your hand up, you supinate, and it goes with that same foot. It goes in the same direction. You pronate, you turn your hand down, and your foot goes in that direction as well. Okay? So supination, pronation. Most of us are a little bit more prone to go one way or the other. So a lot of us, like myself, have a real nice high arch like Tori has, and you can see her weight stays a little bit more on the lateral side of her foot. Other people will have a very flat foot, and most of the weight will be borne through the medial side of the foot. We can't really do much about either one of those. What we want to check, though, is to see what happens to her foot whenever we put her in a neutral position. So what you do is you find on each side, you find the talus. And if you just rock your foot in and out, you will feel that talus move into one finger and out of the other. And so what we want to do is find the position where it's in neither finger. So it disappears on both fingers. So in that position right here, her foot is in a neutral position. And then what we want to do is take a look and see where her arch is. So you can see how she has a nice high arch in that neutral position. And then what you have them do is just relax in that position with your foot. Just let it relax. Just put your weight on it. There you go. And her foot doesn't move. That's great. That means that she stays in that neutral position and she stays controlled. A lot of times what you'll see is the arch is nice and high in that neutral position, but as soon as they relax, the foot just collapses inward and the arch flattens. Somebody like that is going to be a good candidate for foot orthotics, whereas somebody that maintains their arch, an orthotic's probably not going to do much for her foot. But if her arch flattened, then she would be a good candidate. If she had a very flat arch and it stayed flat, you're probably not going to put an orthotic in that. You could probably be just as successful putting a rock in that shoe. So let's talk about footwear real quick. So here's what I do to check a shoe to see if it's a good shoe or not. First of all, I just see where it bends. So that's about where you want it to bend. You want a shoe to bend about right there. If you've got a shoe like a minimalist shoe that you just fold in half, that's not a shoe that's going to give you much support. So you want to see where it does bend, and that's about where you want it to bend. The other thing that I look for is the heel counter. So the heel counter is this back part here, so it controls your heel. Your heel control is going to be a controlled foot. And so this is not going to be a shoe that's going to control your heel very much. Okay? You want to be able to squeeze that and it be nice and firm for you. Okay, the third thing I'll do is if I can't take the inner sole out, like on this shoe, then I'm going to put it back on the shelf because it's typically pretty cheaply made and they're hiding whatever they've got inside. So if I look at, let's see if my shoe, so you can take that out and you can see the stitching inside, hopefully. Okay, they're stitching around the edge all the way around the inside of that shoe. That's going to be a lot more stable than if you have stitching down the middle or they're just trying to hide it by gluing the insert in. Again, the heel counter is not very good on this shoe. It's not going to control very well, and that's about the point that you want to be in. All right, class, that's our lab for today.